Hi friends, welcome back to Bookish Babbles, and for today's video, it's a little late, about 2 weeks too late, but I want to talk about all the books that I read in September. I didn't get a chance to film this a little earlier because I had my family over at my place, and I was just really busy with school and work, but I want to get it out. So in the month of September, I read 11 books, which I've not read more than 5 books in a really, really long time. So 11's really good. It was a really good month for me. I was really into reading, and I really did miss reading. So let's talk about that so we can move on with the rest of the month. For the beginning of the month, you might have seen I was doing a 24-hour readathon. I'll link it over here or over there, wherever, so that you can watch the 24-hour readathon. So the first book that I finished in the month of September was It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I gave it a 4.75 stars. I absolutely love the book. There were some cringy moments that I just didn't love. The beginning was a little slow, but once you get into it and you get into the characters, it was absolutely so cute. This is one of those books that is so popular on Book Talk, and I just wanted to see what the hype was about, and it did not disappoint. I really, really liked it, but it was so close to being a 5 stars, but I also like to reserve my 5-star ratings for books that I think I need to reread this. Like, I need to come back to this book. That's why it wasn't quite a 5-star, but it was so cute. I really, really enjoyed it. The second book that I finished during that 24-hour readathon, it was Savage Bonds by J. Bree, and this is a book, I think I've mentioned this before, I'm reading this with my sister, and the first book was really, really good. I feel like in this second book, it wasn't as good. So the first book for me was almost a 5-star. It was really exciting. The main character was like a little annoying, which is why I docked some points. But the premise was interesting. The thing that was lacking in this book for me was the fact that the magic system and the world building was just not there. It's very much an urban fantasy, but these people are kind of secluded into their own world. If you haven't read this book, it's about this girl. She's running away from her mates. It's a white shoes romance. She's running away from her bonds. Sorry, not mates. Bonds. And then she gets captured. That's why I'm not really telling you much about the plot, but I feel like there was just something missing. At the end of the day, I did rate it 3.25 stars. So it was still enjoyable. The ending left me really shocked, but I just wanted more. That's why. The next book I finished was November Night by Colleen Hoover. Listen, I know you either hate or you love Colleen Hoover. I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to go into details about this book because I do want to make a video where I talk about the Colleen Hoover books that I've read and talk about the controversy with Colleen Hoover. So I'm not going to give you too much detail on my thoughts on this book, but this is basically a book about this girl. She was very badly burned in her childhood during a house fire, and she's really struggling with that and kind of accepting herself. But the main plot of the book, that's just, trigger warning, because that was kind of hard for me to read. I don't like things with fire. But the main plot of the book is this couple. They meet up every year on November 9th, and you kind of see the progression of their relationship. There's a lot of trigger warnings when it comes to this book, so please be diligent and do your research when it comes to, reading this book. Overall, I believe I rated it a 2 stars, if that tells you anything. But nothing against the author. Just the book could have been better, in my opinion. Then I went to Lore Olympus, Volume 1, and this was gifted to me by my sister. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling in modern day. So the gods are kind of amongst the humans, kind of enjoying their lives. And I just thought this would be so cute, and I read it. It was adorable. I feel like there's not much for me to say about this. I gave it a 4 stars because it was really cute, but not much happens. It's just the first volume. Yeah, I will say Persephone, that's her name, right? Yeah, Persephone's a little annoying in this one, but we're just still getting to know her, so not many thoughts when it comes to that. Okay, so after that, I read probably the best book I've read this year thus far. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Oh my freaking god. I absolutely love this book. I've had this book in my collection since it came out. Like literally since the day it came out, I've had it in my collection. I believe someone gifted this to me because I mentioned in one of my videos a very long time ago that I wanted to read this. I never got around to it. My sister read it. She begged me to read it. I lent it to a friend. She begged me to read it. Like I was giving this book out and not reading it myself. So then I finally read it and I was like, oh my god, why have I not read this earlier? Like it was so good. So this is the story of Evelyn Hugo. She was a really popular Hollywood actress back in her day. And she, in the progress of her life, ended up having 7 husbands. And she reaches out to this writer to write her story. The writer is wondering, why did she choose me? Like, what is it that she wants to say? And it basically tells the story of her life. And I thought it was very beautifully written and it was paced perfectly. Evelyn Hugo reminds me of Marilyn Monroe. They speak about the fact that Evelyn Hugo, was a Hispanic woman. She was a Cuban woman, and then she kind of had to change herself into the perfect vision that Hollywood wanted, which is a beautiful blonde white woman. But she was so successful. I don't know how to describe this book. It was just the story of her life. It wasn't anything too gritty. It wasn't anything too flowery. It was just perfect. Just, I don't know what else to say. It was perfect. Next, I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Another very, very controversial book on BookTube, controversial author. I will tell you all of my thoughts in the Colleen Hoover book that might come out next month because I still want to finish a couple more of her books. But I have to say, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 3.75 stars. It's almost a 4 stars. I honestly might come back to this story. It was very touching, but again, we'll talk about it next video. Then I needed a break from like all the heavy things, like reading November 9, then reading Evelyn Hugo, then reading It Ends With Us. I'm like, so I read The Guinevere Deception by Kiersten White. So Kiersten White, I love her as an author. I've read her N.R. Darken series. I read the first 2 books. I'm going to read the 3rd book soon. I really enjoy her writing. I've had this book in my collection for 2 years now, I believe, almost 3. So it's basically a retelling of King Arthur and Merlin. When I was a little kid, I loved Merlin. If you know, you know. I love the TV show. And I just picked it up and I really, really enjoyed this book. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. The only thing is, in the middle, it got a little bit slow, which is why I rated it a 3.75 stars, so close to a 4 stars. I felt like the middle of the story of The Guinevere Deception was lacking, but overall, that was a great story and I felt enraptured by the story. Next, I read Twisted Love by Anna Huang, and I have to admit, I didn't love it. I gave it a 2-star rating. 2 stars for me doesn't mean that it was a bad book. It honestly just means like it's a book that I wouldn't recommend and I wouldn't come back to. So I probably won't read this book again, honestly. I won't recommend it to my friends. It was fine. Like, I don't see why people are so obsessed with the characters. I don't see why people are so obsessed with the story. It was very diverse, but I wasn't in love with the guy or the girl. It was okay. I've read better, personally. And it's a dark romance, or I wouldn't say it's a dark romance, but it is technically a dark romance. But it was just lacking something. That book was really lacking something. So I gave it a 2-star. If you really, really like this book, please don't hate me. I just didn't love it, and that's okay. And if you love it, perfect. Then it's the one for you. Then I read a book that is, again, a contender for one of my favorite books of the year and of all time. So, hear me out. Hear me out. These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. Oh my God. You don't understand. You don't understand the obsession with this book, the feelings that I have towards this book, the fact that I don't have the second freaking book. Oh my God. This is the first time since ACOTAR that I've had this deep feeling of being enraptured in this story to the point where I can see the story take place like in my eyes. I know some people, when you read a page, you're just reading the words. For me, if I'm into the story enough, I'm not reading words on a page. I'm watching a movie. So that's how this whole book felt for me. It only took like a whole sentence for me to get back into the book and like start seeing it in my head. The characters were very fleshed out. They felt very real. They were not perfect. That's my favorite thing. I hate when they make the love interests kind of perfect, like too good. They were not here. It was serving complicated. I loved it. We have kind of friends to lovers, kind of a love triangle type of thing. And the way that people always describe it is very similar to ACOTAR. I would disagree. Yes, it gave me ACOTAR vibes, but to me, this read more of like a Cinderella retelling with the fays. So it's basically the story of this girl that is stuck with her, I think is her aunt, who is taking care of her, and she has the evil step siblings or cousins, and she's literally stuck in a cellar paying her aunt to live there, and she can't pay the rent that she has to pay. She steals something from the wrong person, and then her sister gets taken away. So now she has to work with the Seelie and the Unseelie court to get her sister back. It's good. It's good. I don't know if I did justice with the description. Read the description on the back. It's so fucking good. You don't understand. You don't understand. That's how you know it's good, when my mannerisms change. You don't understand how good this book is. I want to reread it. I want to read the second book. I've heard the second book isn't as good, but the magic system in this freaking world is so beautiful. That's the thing. I always feel like the magic systems aren't developed enough. This was perfection. And I want the hardcovers. And I want all the special editions. I want to collect this series now. This is my new ACOTAR. Thank you. So yeah, that book was a huge success. So we went from such a freaking good book to, I read that type of book. That is Blood Bonds by J. Bree. First book, great. Second book, it was good. Third book, like what is happening? Nothing happened. Nothing happened. You know what? You want to know what happened here? Sex. Yeah. And then some sex. And then some more sex. And then some more sex. And then nothing. And then, oh my God, something. The only reason that I'm reading the next book is because of the ending. And I really don't like it when authors follow that formula where nothing happens the whole book and then the end makes you want to read the next book, because yeah, I'm going to read the next book, but I'm going to be mad about it. Why'd you do that? I gave this book a 2.75 stars. It's so close to a 3 star if something more happened. Like, give me some magic, give me some explanation. There were so many things happening, and me and my sister, like I said, were buddy reading this series, and we were literally like, what? Like, I don't want to spoil it. I don't know how to think about it without spoiling it. But some scenes, we literally were like, how is this happening right now? How does this make any sense? And even the end was like, what? But like, what? So yeah, I don't know how I feel. I don't know how to feel about this series. It was a great start, and then, I don't know. It's not giving. It's not serving. Moving on. Then I read Kirsten White's And I Darken series. I've read this before. This is a reread. I loved being back with Lara and Radu and, getting back into their story. This is more of a historical fiction book. It's not really a fantasy book. but I really, really enjoyed it. It's Kirsten White. I enjoy her writing, and it was a nice refresher because I didn't remember enough to go into the rest of the series. So a reread, and then I rated this 4 stars. In the beginning, I rated this book 5 stars, but I think the second time around, I realized how slow it really was. But it is important for it to be slow because you're setting up the characters, you're setting up the foundation of the book and everything. All right, so those were all the books that I read in the month of September. I'm really proud of myself. Yay! Anyways, I really hope you enjoyed this video and you liked hearing about my thoughts on these books. Make sure you follow me on my Instagram, bookish.babbles, my Twitter, bookishbabbles, and my Storygraph, bookishbabbles. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye, friends. Mwah.